Welcome to Sivako, the road to Avatar. I am Shaun Alexander, and I will be your guide to the world of Pandora and beyond. And today I have a very special guest with me. So, special guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you. My name is Drew Toynbee. I am a co-creator, co-host on Sequel Pitch, a movie podcast, and I'm attempting to be a freelance podcast producer and editor as well.
And it's a pleasure having you on because I know you've wanted to talk Avatar for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a film, and well, I'm sure we'll get into this, that has just, and you've covered this many, many times already on this podcast, so I won't labor the point too much, but this film gets an awful lot of indifference or up to hate, and it doesn't deserve either of those reactions. So yeah, every time since 2009, anytime I've tried to talk about this movie and be excited by it, people are just like, oh, what the Space Smurfs movie. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Awesome. And you know what? That brings us nicely on to my first question for you, which is when did you first see Avatar?
I can't remember the exact date. It would have been fairly close to release in the December 2009. And I saw it in cinemas in that first theatrical run 3 times. And that was in my university holiday. I saw it 3 times over the Christmas break.
Oh man, I like that. 3 times that in that sort of period of time as well. Amazing. So you must have a favorite moment then.
Oh, it's really tough though. That is a toughie. I don't think you can really beat Jake's first escape from the Thanator, like that. Just them arriving, and you've been hearing so much about how dangerous Pandora is, and then you find it's beautiful, but then you actually find it's dangerous again, and then it leads into the big rhino, and then the Thanator, and then the jumping in the river, and then the nighttime dogs, and then Natiri show is just that whole run. The whole movie, I think, is fantastic. If I could say the whole movie, I actually would, but that's probably up there. Other than that, just Sigourney Weaver having a go at Giovanni Ribisi all the time is great as well.
Yeah, I love that dynamic between the two. It's oddly enough, before the film, I would never have paired them together because obviously it's like, oh, I know Sigourney Weaver, she's Ripley. I know Giovanni Ribisi, he's Phoebe's brother.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, oh, what an interesting pairing. But in the film, works perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you must be very excited for The Way of Water, right?
I am. Yeah, I really, really am. I just can't wait to see. I can't wait to see how it is, and all of the early reactions and people who saw the clip ahead of watching it watching the original in IMAX over this weekend that's just gone. It sounds like it's going to do the same thing again, and Jim Cameron doesn't miss particularly. Let's be honest. Like, however you might feel about him ethically, particularly in how he came across some of the concepts for the original movie, and I'm not going to bang on about that one, but he makes damn good movies, and so I just can't wait. It will be very, very nice to go to the cinema and watch a big, lush CG movie that's not a Marvel movie. And I say that as someone who, I adore the Marvel movies. I'm a huge Marvel fan, but every big blockbustery spectacle cinema film that I've been to see really over the last like 5, 6, 7 years has pretty much been a Marvel movie with the odd Jurassic World or James Bond sprinkled in. So this will be a very nice change of pace.
Yeah, I think I'm the same really. Like, since Avengers came out, the 2012 one, I've seen every Marvel movie at the cinema. Hasn't been a one I've missed. And it's so interesting because I feel like I've talked to it, and it always comes up. I always talk to everyone about Marvel in this podcast because it is now the industry standards. Which is weird because obviously like comic book fans were the outcasts, and now they are literally the template of what film fans are seen as at this point.
Isn't it fascinating?
And in such a short
is,
time, like
yeah,
in 10 years, basically.
yeah, exactly. And well, exactly, because it didn't really take over the world until Avengers. Like Iron Man did well, but I didn't see Iron Man in the cinema. I wasn't really aware of it until it was out on DVD, and I got it for like a $5 in Tesco's or something. And then Hulk, very few people saw. Captain America, particularly in this country, no one really talked about it that much, because Captain America was such an anachronistic, like weird character choice, and everyone assumed it would just be super jingoistic and not great. And then all of a sudden Avengers came out, and then everyone was like, oh my god. And from then on it's been absolutely bananas, and I really like it. I really, really do like the MCU, but nice little change of pace.
Yeah, this feels like the delicious, refreshing, a refreshing shot after like downing
Yeah,
10 beers in a row.
exactly. It's not it. I wouldn't exactly say it's not. It's still a big burger, but it's a different burger. Maybe it's a chicken burger with a pineapple on it rather than a beef burger. It's still oh man, what is that metaphor? I'm so sorry to everyone who just heard me say that.
I'll tell you now, if James Cameron's making this burger, it's vegan.
That's a very good point. A very good point.
It's way too healthy for you.
Yeah, but still good. And that's the point.
Surprisingly nice. And you know what? I think this sort of brings us nicely on, because we're chatting today. Our conversation is all about basically how James Cameron just knows what to do when it comes to big box office spectacle. He has done it twice in a row by breaking the box office record of having the highest grossing movie ever. And we kind of want to have a look into how. Like, doing it once, okay, look, it happens. Doing it twice, with entirely different movies,
back to back as well.
Yeah, like, it's unreal. Like, obviously it is unheard of, basically. Like, how do you achieve something like that? And I think a good starting point might be that he's done it again just this weekend with a successful Avatar re-release, which finished third domestically in the US, behind Don't Worry Darling and The Woman King, but at the worldwide box office finished top, and was basically the most successful re-release by a long way in recent time, since literally they re-released A New Hope in like the 90s. Like, I think it compared the re-release of No Way Home and Rogue One and another one. The three of them combined still didn't make as much as Avatar did in this opening weekend.
Wow, that's bonkers. That is bonkers. I'm particularly surprised by the No Way Home thing, given how rabid people were for that.
Yeah, like
when it came out.
It's interesting. I feel like the re-release of No Way Home was an interesting one, because it was just billed as with some extras, and it was just so that they could put in all the bloopers, basically, of whatever Toby, Andrew, and Tom were talking about on set. Anytime they were in costume, they were just like, "Yep, keep filming."
Yeah, and so that they could actually market the movie with Toby and Andrew on the posters, which must have been a nice bonus for them. But blimey, I felt confident that a lot of people would go and see Avatar this weekend. I did not realize it would be that many. Wow.
My two other favorite little stats about this weekend is that the Avatar re-release actually opened in a lot less theaters than you'd expect. It opened in less than half the same number that Don't Worry Darling opened in. So Don't Worry Darling opened in about 4,000 theaters in America. Avatar released in less than 2,000. I think it was about 1,800. And that was because they mostly pushed it for 3D. And you could tell by the box office, or like the ticket numbers, because 93% of all tickets bought in America for Avatar were for the 3D version.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. It is the way to watch it.
Exactly. And I think, I think that's just something that James Cameron's kind of been able to show, is that, like, he knows how to push technology in the right direction at the right time. And honestly, most of the time it's before it's even people even realize they want it.
Well, exactly. And I think Titanic, well, he's been pushing boundaries in CG for his entire career, and you look at the Terminator and the practical effects, particularly there, and then more practical effects in Aliens, and he'd nailed it by then. And then you've got The Abyss and the really pioneering stuff there. Then you get into T2 and the liquid metal Terminator, and then he goes quiet for a bit, and then all of a sudden there's Titanic. And the thing, going back and rewatching Titanic recently, that really got to me was how effects heavy it is, but how little you notice. You do a bit more now, like if you're watching it on a big telly, you can see the joins that you couldn't see when you watched it on VHS on your little like 14-inch TV, and but it still holds up remarkably well. But the amount of CG actually did make me feel like there are a lot of parallels between Titanic and Avatar, and of it there are plenty of differences, but both times he was really, really pushing the envelope and taking a very sort of earnest, emotive subject matter and realizing it with an enormous budget and as much technology as he could get his hands on. And he succeeded.
I think you said something there that I think is the biggest thing for me with James Cameron as a filmmaker, is that he's so earnest. Like he genuinely doesn't make a film that ever feels like it's doesn't believe what it's showing you. It takes the matter very seriously. It's grounded in whatever world he has created, and he fully immerses you into it and says, look, this is exactly the story I'm telling. I'm not going to poke fun at the fact, oh, it's a bit funny because look, they're big old blue Smurf aliens, or oh, it's a bit funny, look at the Titanic, it's sinking, we know it's going to sink. You know, it doesn't poke fun out of it, which a lot of films nowadays are almost embarrassed in their own stories. Like it's, and I don't know if that's a Marvel thing. It feels like it quite a bit is right now, in that a lot of the Marvel films are almost embarrassed in their own thing. It's the whole like Ant-Man constantly making jokes about his own name and stuff like that. And it's like, no, just be like, no, this is what I am. Be proud of it. And I think James Cameron is exactly that to me.
Yeah, it will be really fascinating seeing how that attitude in because even things like Star Wars has gone a little more quippy. It's always, Star Wars has always had more jokes than your average Jim Cameron film, let's say, but it is more along the lines that you were just talking about, certainly. So it will be really interesting seeing how much or how little that comes out.
So what is it for you that what do you think is the biggest factor in why Titanic was such a success for him?
Okay, so the first time I watched, so Titanic came out December 97, so I was 9. I was 9 years old when Titanic came out, and I didn't see it till it was out on VHS, obviously, and so that was back in the 90s. It was ages. It was like a year before films came, or it felt like a year before films came out on VHS. So I was probably like 10, maybe even 11 when I first saw it. And the narrative amongst my friendship group, I think it was either my friend Chris or George, can't remember which one of the two's house we watched it, because they live very nearby to each other. But the narrative amongst us was, hey, this film has a really cool bit where the boat sinks and a guy falls off and hits a propeller and spins. And also, apologies to the listeners, you see boobies. And as in it, like a 10, 11-year-old boy, that was the entire draw of the movie. It was big ship sink, look cool, and breasts. So, and watching the film as a like 11-year-old, the relationship stuff was pretty dull, but the sinking ship was incredible. And I think what he did, well, the reason that I tell that little story is because I think that 11-year-old me enjoying those bits actually transferred over to a lot of the adult male audience as well. And once they realized that, hey, it is a big spectacle movie, it's kind of like, I don't know how much currency there was in, it's a bit like the Poseidon Adventure that got some people to go. And
yeah, I don't think anyone was like, oh man, I love Poseidon Adventure, I must immediately get to this.
but I think there was, it is a disaster movie, and it never feels like it when you're watching it. It doesn't feel in any way exploitative in the way that other disaster movies do, but it still has that spectacle and that thrillerishness and the ticking clock and the tension, and it does all of that very well. However, it also has two very attractive young leads who have very, very good chemistry, a straightforward story, but it's very well delivered, and it's really romantic. And as an actual adult who is able to appreciate those things for what they are, it's a really well told love story, and it's interesting, and they have a fantastic dynamic. And Billy Zane is a hissable bad guy, and he's great because he's such a shit. Sorry, I can't remember if I can swear.
Oh, you could swear all you like. I have
he's
no
a
mind.
bastard. I hate him, and I love him for it. So I think that he hit all the quadrants. He made a movie that primarily, I think, I haven't looked at the numbers. I tried to find this and I couldn't find details, but I presume that the audience figures were significantly more skewed towards women than your average film from that time period. And so I'm sure that would have helped, because big movies that are at least equally or primarily aimed at women were not really a thing. Like it was very much, you've got rom-coms or you've got a relationship drama, and that's your bit. And so this fed into that, but then you've also got relationship drama people going, and you've got all of their husbands and boyfriends going because their wives are going, and then they all watch it and they're like, oh, actually that was really good. And then you hear that it's doing really well, and you go, yeah, maybe I will go and see it again. And then everyone goes and sees it again because it is good. And the narrative building up about it being not good and it being a sappy love story, I think, is very, very childish, and came from people who were my age when they first watched it and were there for something that is not the point of the movie.
You know what I found really interesting was you talking about like sort of the plot details of Titanic, and a lot of the similar things sort of ring true for Avatar as well. The fact about there is a very simple plot.
Mm-hmm.
There is a very unlikable character, Billy Zane in that one, Stephen Lang in Avatar, who basically there's no redeeming factor about them. They are just a bastard, basically, the entire film. But people complain about those aspects, despite the fact that they're one of the strongest elements, because it streamlines the film into something so much easier to digest, so that you can just enjoy the spectacle of it all. And both these films end on that, possibly like incredible action sequences of sorts. Titanic with the disaster, and Avatar with the huge battle, which is so well paced that it flew by. I watched it in the re-release. I felt like I blinked once and I missed all of it.
That final battle is so good. It is so good. I had a bit of a kerfuffle trying to watch it this weekend because I couldn't go to the re-release because my wife was working night shifts this weekend, so I had my 3-year-old, and so I couldn't go. But I was like, I wouldn't take him to the cinema because he might cry, he might get bored, he might disturb other people. But I'm going to stick it on Disney Plus in the background while I'm chilling out with him, because there's nothing too scary, and if there is something a bit scary, I just distract him for a minute, and that tends to be fine. And I went to watch it on Disney Plus, and they've only gone and taken it bloody away. And so I had to then like go upstairs, get in the loft, go through my box of Blu-rays to find my Avatar Blu-ray, which I haven't watched a Blu-ray in such a long time. So that was a bit of a faff, but it was worth it. And getting to that battle, like I was exactly the same as you, completely captivated. It looks so good. It's still, I can't believe the CG is 13 years old. It's incredible. And you've got multiple character deaths, and they're all impactful, and they actually have weight, and the action is spectacular, and the storytelling is really clear. The stakes are really high, but it's not the end of the world or the end of the universe. It's masterful.
Absolutely.
But yeah, to your point though, there are an awful lot of similarities between the two, and I love your point that it allows the movie to feel a bit streamlined, because yeah, it's there's a place for all kinds of stories in cinema, and one kind of story that people like are ones that they can follow and they basically know where it's going, but that doesn't make it any less enjoyable. That people can watch The Sixth Sense a second time and still enjoy it despite knowing what the twist is. And so I love the way you put that having simpler characters but still excellently performed and entertaining to watch just lets it wash over you. You're not there trying to piece together people's motivations or being like, oh, who's double crossing who, and oh, maybe they've got no, he's good, he's bad, they want to take thing, they have thing they want to take, and now they're going to fight, and it's going to be good.
And I think that really feeds into like the whole. James Cameron's always said this: Avatar is aimed at ages 8 to 80, and you cannot deny that an 8-year-old can probably understand who's the good guys and bad guys in this film.
Exactly.
And I think that's such an important factor in a way, because you're meant to. It's not often films try and get you to be unsympathetic towards the humans.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen very often. And this is like one of the few examples where that actually is shown, and it's made very clear. Look, no, humanity is bad.
Yeah.
This side of humanity is dreadful. You should not like them. And still somehow people don't understand that message, which is a bit weird. I don't get that. That's a whole other discussion to be had in some point there. But I think it's so impressive to me how, like James Cameron basically just says to you, hey, look, enjoy living in this new world, enjoy these people and their culture, and you will come to love them. And I'm sure going forward, it's going to show it even further, because we're just going to see how much more integrated Jake is into that family and into the Na'vi way of life. And I can't wait to see more of it, if anything. That's the one thing I craved at the end of the film. I was like, man, I cannot wait to see more of this world.
Yeah. And I had a similar when they actually came out and said, no, these films, they are definitely gonna, we promise they are coming. And that was like 6 years ago at this point. And I remember then thinking, oh, maybe I might be over it. Like I really like the first one, but will I still be excited? But the more I've thought about it and going back and rewatching it, and I'm going to see if I can negotiate my wife's rota and various other things and see if I can make it to the cinema to go and watch it again this week. But actually, there is a lot that they can do with this, and knowing some of the casting, which I've sort of seen in, and I don't want to give spoilers in case there are people listening. Like, it's public knowledge, but I'm not going to say. I'm really excited to see what they do next, and I think for me the most interesting thing is it is a bit of a white savior film in a way, because Jake does show up and he is the one who leads it, and like he uses his thinking outside the box to become Taruk Maktel and all of this kind of stuff. But it looks like the next movie is more about him integrating with their culture, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because that's the one bit of the message that I didn't think came across, despite the fact that he integrated into his Na'vi body and he completely renounced humanity in every single way at the end of the previous movie. He was still human, and seeing how he can further renounce his humanity, and that will be really fascinating just from a character perspective, and I'm sure that will be part of it. How they've got certain characters back and how that's justified and explained and things, I'm excited to see, and it's going to be mad. And yeah, sorry, I've completely lost the point that I was talking about. I'm just excited.
This is the thing. This podcast always goes off on wild tangents. So I don't mind it. If anything, this is kind of how the podcast kind of has grown, in that it's become less formatted in a way that it is a chance for people to come on and just talk about whatever aspects they want to. And I feel like because you wanted to talk about like a bit about Titanic, a bit about Avatar, it's kind of fun to sort of look at it and be like, well, we've seen the trend now. We know the trend of Cameron, which is, okay, wait a long time, make a new film. It becomes the best box office performer of all time. All right, wait 12 years. Let's make the next one. And then it's another 13 years for this one. Does he do it again? Do you think he can do it again?
Oh, I'm gonna say not quite. Not like being frank, I'm only saying that because I feel like I have to come down on one side or the other. I feel like there's a very good chance it really could go either way, because with a bit of luck, and if everyone is as impressed with the whole movie as they've been with the previews and all of just the glowing press that I've been seeing for the previews for the next movie, if it lives up to that and it gets the press of, you need to go and see this, because that's what got the first one going. People just came out and were like, that was like nothing I've ever experienced. And it has now been long enough that people have forgotten that, and they've gotten over 3D, and all the 3D that was in movies was just slapped in there for the hell of it. And because nothing has lived up to Avatar in 3D since that movie. And it wasn't just because it was the first one, they did it better. And so there is a chance that it gets the really good reviews and it gets the word of mouth and everyone gets really excited about it again. However, I worry that it's been 13 years of people saying it's Dances with Smurfs and it's Pocahontas in space and all of those really reductive, not entirely untrue assessments.
Yeah, they're not wrong. It is. I will openly admit it is.
Yes, but it is reductive to say that it is just that, or indeed to say that that's why people liked it. Like, and a lot of people do like it for the story. I enjoy the story and the relationships. I really do. But my love for this movie always grew from the technology. Like, I was around that time, I spent I spent a ludicrous amount of money on DVDs through my teens, because I barely watched the movie. I watched the special features. Every DVD I bought, if it wasn't a 2-disc edition, I wouldn't buy it, because I needed the special features. And so this movie was just all tech and performance capture and motion capture and all of these really exciting things and all these exciting implications for gaming and everything else that has been able to come because of this movie. I personally can't see the next one being as transformative a leap as the previous one was. And so I'm not sure that it will have quite as much word of mouth and excitement for the general public as the previous one did. However, there's an entire generation of people who wouldn't go to the cinema to watch it when they were in 2009. And now there's this big thing that's it's not a superhero, and it's not Star Wars. So there will be people who are like, okay, yeah, let's give that a go. So I really hope it does. I would be very pleased, but I can't quite see it. What do you think?
I'm laying on the side that I think it will.
Okay.
And I think it's mostly due to how the industry is reacting to it. And I think what told me that this is going to make a lot of money is because everyone else moved as far away from Avatar as they could. Not That's only did point. So Aquaman immediately was like, I'm not playing that game. It moved a whole year back. Shazam moved to April. Even Kraven the Hunter was meant to come out in January. It moved back several months later into the year because it was like, I'm not dealing with it. There is not a blockbuster film that comes out between Avatar until Valentine's Day when Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out.
That's such a good point.
That is literally, it's got 2 months with no competition.
Yeah.
It is the only thing people can see unless they want to see like your indie films. And I think it's because the industry are genuinely scared because they've seen it happen before and they don't want it to happen to their film.
Yeah, don't bet against Jim Cameron. And literally. Also, there's the fact that Disney now own, well, they don't own Fox, but they own Avatar and 20th Century Studios. And the fact that they are still like, no, there's going to be a lot more of these. They must know. Disney must know they've got something good on their hands. Because they've all seen it, and they're still saying, "Yep, we're going to do more of these movies." So they're very confident. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Oh God, I hope you're right.
I think it is that confidence thing, and I think it's even stemmed all the way back to when they opened up Pandora in Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
because it screams like everyone at the time was like, why would you do this? Like, it makes no sense. This franchise has done nothing since 2009. And Disney were just sitting there like, no, we've got this. And bang, Pandora was like the most popular thing people would only go to for like a 2-year period. And then I think it's because they must have seen things that, James Cameron's probably had like stuff, stored up in the bank, waiting to be like, okay, here's my little demo for you. Here's what's coming. Yeah. They saw it and they were like, the dollar signs that James Cameron loves to throw up on a whiteboard. He probably drew he probably wrote up Avatar, drew 3 S's at the end with dollar signs through and was like, yep, there you go. You're sorted.
Yeah. And I suppose like the first one took an awful long time because he was developing the technology. The technology is so much more mature now. And despite me saying it won't feel like a technological leap to see it on screen, I really hope it does. And again, everyone's saying that actually, no, yeah, maybe it is. It does look amazing. But B, I do not doubt the progress that's happened behind the camera. And I bet he'll be able to just bang these movies out now in like 5 minutes.
Well, Free's done. Come on, guys. Free's basically done. They're just going to edit it. And I know they've, so at D23, he said that they filmed part of 4. It's not that they've started filming 4. They've actually already filmed part of 4 because there's going to be a time jump in 4 at some point. So they have to film the younger actors while they were young.
Wow. Okay.
So he is ready. He will not, basically, he doesn't even need the green light from Disney. He will just green light himself.
Yeah, he'll just do it.
And do you dare ask James Cameron to please stop?
Well, no, exactly.
Especially the stories I've heard of him when he was younger. Like, he seems to have mellowed out a little bit now, and I think it's because he has so much creative control, and he can take his time with it. But I heard stories of when he was on the set of The Abyss, of doing awful things, like he drowned someone.
Well, and I watched the documentary about the making of Titanic that's on Disney Plus, and even in his slightly older, mellower time, he's very intense. He is an intense dude.
So, as you mentioned earlier, you do a little bit of work with Sequel Pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is an interesting one. I want to hear from you. How can you combine Titanic and Avatar then, seeing as they're so similar? How do we get from one to the
God.
other?
Oh my God.
This is a challenge. I've got something in my head.
Okay. I don't have a storyline.
Oh,
the crux of the bridge movie from Titanic to Avatar has got to be that the heart of the ocean is actually a gemstone from space, and it has traces of unobtainium in it, and that's what twigs people. So someone goes back to find it again, but they do find it this time because Rose isn't there to lie, and ensure that no one can have it. And they discover this element, and that's what allows them to engineer the travel across space, and then they need more of it. So there we go.
I like that. So
what was your idea?
My idea was because, as you know, people love to do really, really dumb things like name another ship the Titanic. This time it would be the first voyage into space.
Oh no.
Like a commercial voyage. Go through a black hole, wormhole, end up in Pandora. Bang. There you go. That's how the first people arrive on Pandora, via Titanic to the space adventure.
I mean, the thing is, like, God, human beings are just such. At some point, someone is going to name another ship or another vessel of some description Titanic. It's going to happen.
I guarantee you. Look, okay, when someone listens to this podcast in 1,000 years' time, please let my descendants know whether they've named a spaceship Titanic, because I guarantee you someone will, because humanity is dumb and knows that it can only repeat its own mistakes constantly.
Just a species built entirely out of hubris.
Totally. I just want to say a big thank you for you for coming on, because honestly, it's been a pleasure. And to talk about Titanic, this is the first time we've actually talked about Titanic on the podcast.
I thought so. I have been listening, and I didn't think it had been properly mentioned. So I'm very, very pleased that I've got to come on and publicly profess that actually I like Titanic a lot. And I don't care what anyone's got to say.
If anyone tells you Titanic is a bad movie, they have no taste, because Titanic is like a quintessential like classic. It's like, it's got the aura of a classic from like the early like golden age of Hollywood, all being made in the 90s.
Yeah, you are entirely right. And yeah, sure, this has been an absolute pleasure, and very much looking forward to getting you on sequel pitch soonish.
Absolutely, because I've demanded. I was banging down the door being like, excuse me, Avatar, please.
Oh yeah, it is happening. You will be judging our sequels soon. In fact, I will send you the dates and make sure that all still lines up.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait, because anytime I get to hear other people make up real wild stories about Avatar, it always excites me.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I've had a great time. Thank you so much for having me on.
Where's the best place for people to find you?
Definitely Twitter. I am just at Drew Toynbee, and you can find me there.
Amazing. And yeah, I honestly appreciate so much you coming on, because it's been such a lovely discussion, and I hope everyone's enjoyed having a little listen and enjoyed seeing the Avatar re-release and making it a worldwide success, because we did it. Well, hey, Avatar 13 years later, still top of the box office. What do you know?
Good Lord.
I'm sure we'll be back at some point in December to shout about how it did it all once again.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Hope you have a lovely day, and catch you all soon. Goodbye.